All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are here. Despite the things that the devil will throw in front of us, Phil, we rise. We rise. So the show will go on. If you notice that the audio might not be as crisp as usual, look the other way, mind your business, and drop a 5-star review anyway. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. There's stuff going on. Things are happening.
Mm-hmm.
So how are you, Phil? Before we get into it, you doing all right?
I'm all right. I'm fighting burnout. I'm fighting severe burnout.
Yeah. Listen, I don't talk to you apart from this podcast, man. I realized the other day that apart from work and home, I'm not really talking to many people. You know, that's not healthy.
No, doesn't sound healthy.
You know, the key to happiness is a great social relationships, Danny. You've got to have a good work-life balance, eh?
I've been using ChatGPT as my friend.
Oh, shit, me too. I literally just designed ChatGPT to be my life coach. It's got all my information. Every morning it sends me my to-do list. So like I've set it up so like it's tied into my Google Tasks and my email. No, I just don't think. I just sit down at my desk and tell ChatGPT to let me do what I should do.
I keep asking.
News, there's a study that has shown that people that use ChatGPT have brain atrophy. But that's neither here nor there.
I mean, on my end, you know, I've been every time I tell it about my day, it keeps validating me and telling me how smart and amazing I am. And
no, you should. There's a prompt I have to stop.
No, I don't want to fix that. Why would I want to fix that? Sounds good to me.
Wow.
Anyway, let's actually get into it, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. We're gonna go right into the meat of the matter. I gotta ask, y'all, good to go? Sound of it, them. Get mad now.
Let me hear a drum play.
Skibidi toilet, what it is, what it do? Walk one day. Welcome to another episode of your favorite podcast. It's Two Broke Twimbos. We back one more again. You are hearing right. We are in your ears right now. My name's Danny, that guy, aka Danos, the Mad Titan, aka Denford Wegumaraini, aka Denimbi, my life entertainment, aka can I get a $500 million tender for some cancer equipment, please? AKA Akuna Mumwendi Danmu.
Damn, watch yourself. And he's not only unmistakable, they're irrefutable, they're unquestionable. They won't be saying anything incriminatable. Phil try to get Floss, Big Boss, Big Pizza, P, Sense and Global, aka Phil P. Phil, Shamari Tingaro Drink, and of course, DJ Mukaradi and Philon. No, not Philon must know that one's gone. Anyway, I'm here. It's this guy. I'm currently without power. So it seems, Dan, power came back last week. No, 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago. And it hasn't gone since. Today's the first day we've had a power cut.
What?
It does not come to my attention that the 2 months without power may have depleted the viability of my battery because it went from a 75% to 0 in a matter of minutes.
Are you 100% sure that someone wasn't using something they shouldn't have been using?
No, we turned everything off.
Okay. All right. It's just like, I feel like later on in the evening, you'll be like, wait, why is this iron on? Or something. You'll see. But anyway, it's all right.
I don't know what type of operation you run there, but why would an iron be left on? That sounds like something That sounds like a dad and Nyasha Gwan that if I ever heard a dad and Nyasha Gwan date is
No. I mean, I did have to sit with Nyasha and explain that, listen, if this light is off, do not use the iron. If this light is off, do not use the kettle.
And then immediately ignored it, didn't she?
No. If you tell her enough times, she gets it. She eventually gets it. She eventually gets it. So anyway, we move. We normally like to start the show before we get into any mess by celebrating something positive, someone who's done something amazing. We often speak about Zimbabweans, but sometimes it could be Africans. Today I've got a couple of Zimbabweans I would like to mention to you, and we're going to be focusing in the world of film. Film.
Programs.
Last week at the Tribeca Festival in New York City, a Zimbabwean film became the first Zimbabwean film ever to be selected for the Tribeca Film Festival.
Oh, that's Robert De Niro's festival. Who could that be?
It's called Rise, a Zimbabwean film inspired by a true story of perseverance. The writer and director of this film, Jessica Rowlands, held a Q&A there, and she was explaining how this was entirely shot in Zimbabwe alongside producer Joan Jagu, friend of the show.
Hey, Joe Zizi.
Starring Zimbabwean-American actor Tongai Chirisa. It's
another friend of the show.
If you'd like to hear, Phil, I can give you a brief description of what this movie is about. Rise is a film that follows a battered street boy who is rescued by a boxing coach, and he is then trained to become the next boxing superstar at a major tournament. What begins as a reluctant mentorship turns into a touching journey of healing, purpose, and survival, both inside and outside the boxing ring.
Who plays the coach?
Shot, edited, filmed, produced entirely in Zimbabwe. Last week, playing at the Tribeca, well, what was it, a week and a half ago? Playing at the Tribeca Film Festival. According to the Herald, Phil, it was received with thunderous applause at the end of the film. I don't know who plays the coach. I know who plays the. I think Tongai Chirisa plays the coach, and the young 10-year-old by the name of Sikanyiso Ngwenya is the one who plays the little guy who's learning how to be a boxer. I think. I mean, I haven't watched it. I've just read about it. I don't think it's available for streaming anyway. But yeah. Huge congratulations to the team. Congratulations to Jessica Rowlands. She's also Zimbabwean. Congratulations to Joan Jagu, Tongai Chirisa, young man Sikanyiso Ngwenya, and everyone involved in putting together this film and its reception there in New York. And shout out to everyone for getting to New York before we're not allowed to go anymore. So yeah, I don't know if you saw, Phil, but Zimbabwe is on a list, and we have 60 days before. We went on the initial list. Then this past week there was another list. And apparently, if we don't respond in 60 days, then we'll be banned from going to America.
Oh, no.
Anyway, I really enjoyed reading the story. I thought it was dope. So shout out to team. Do I have Joan Jagu's number? He's probably still in New York. Let me not bother him. Okay. Still in the world of film. This one is a little interesting. Bear with me, Phil. Film producer Nyasha Kadandara has created a documentary called Matabeleland. Can you guess what it's about, Phil?
The baddies at Smokehouse.
Close. Okay, no, I shouldn't be making jokes about this. All right. Nyasha Kadandara's documentary Matabeleland is set for its African premiere happening this coming week, or actually this week now. This Matabeleland is a documentary that tells the story of Chris Nyati, a Zimbabwean immigrant in Botswana who has always believed that his family is cursed ever since his father's brutal death in 1983 during the Kukuraundi massacres. He sees this curse as the cause of his financial struggles, and he's driven to give him a fitting reburial to make things right. So it tells the story of him traveling back to his homeland and trying to find out, the story of what happened and trying to get his father a fitting burial. This documentary is set for its African premiere at the Encounters South African International Documentary Festival that will be happening this weekend. Well, actually, this coming week is the 21st to the 28th of June. And it had its international world premiere in Copenhagen at CPH Docs 2025. Earlier on this year. So Zimbabwean filmmakers are doing the thing. Shout out to everyone involved. And I think some stories have to be told. So congratulations to Nyasha Kadandara and everyone involved in the making of this documentary. Whew. That's it on Africans Doing It Big, focusing on Zimbabweans. Hey, Phil, I want to give you an update in our section where we give some updates from our previous episode. Now, if you recall, in our last episode, I thought we gave a great account of the whole story between Coco Gauff winning the Roland Garros and the subsequent, brouhaha that erupted after after Sabalenka's comments, etc., etc. If you want a quick catch up, Coco Gauff, who is ranked number 2 in the world, well, at least she was at the end of the tournament, defeated number 1 ranked Sabalenka in the Roland Garros. It's time for Coco Gauff. In her interview at the end, or an interview after the match, Sabalenka seemed to imply that Coco Gauff did not deserve her win. But when we actually listened to the words and discussed it afterwards, I think in our episode, it was clear that she's a bit of a sore loser and, she kind of overrates herself. But she never actually said that she thinks she's better than Coco Gauff. She said, it's not that Coco played incredibly unbelievably, it's that I made a lot of mistakes. Now, without context, that is obviously a sore loser thing to say. And I'm not out here trying to say that she handled it with grace. She obviously didn't. But people made a much bigger deal out of that conversation than it was, in my opinion. And they acted like she said something like, yeah, Coco Gauff sucks. She shouldn't have won, which is not at all what she said. But that's, without discounting the fact that in sport, obviously we know that there's race problems and, media and public in general view black people winning differently to white people winning. Completely understand that. I just think that we can also use some level of critical thinking about this exact, not to just read a headline, but actually hear what they said. I think we handled it really well. Anyway, I've got a follow-up. Sabalenka had a follow-up interview that I wanted to share with you, some of the things that she said. This is according to Eurosport. She said, I spoke to Coco afterward. I wanted to apologize and make sure she knew she absolutely deserved to win the tournament and that I respect her. That was just completely unprofessional of me. I let my emotions get the better of me. I absolutely regret what I said back then. We all make mistakes. I'm just a human being who's still learning in life. I think we all have those days when we lose control. The difference with me is the world is watching. I got a lot more hate for what I did afterwards than most people. But what I also want to say is I spoke to Coco afterward, not immediately, but recently. I wanted to apologize and make sure she knew she absolutely deserved to win the tournament and that I respect her. I never intended to attack her. I was super emotional and not very smart at that press conference. I'm not necessarily proud for what I did. It took me a while to revisit it, to approach it with open eyes and understand. I realized a lot about myself. Why did I lose so many finals? I kept getting so emotional. I also learned a lot. Above all, one thing, I'm the one who always treats my opponents with great respect, whether I win or lose. Without that respect, I wouldn't be where I am today. It was a tough but very important lesson for me. So I think that's ultimately what we're saying. She spoke badly. She didn't handle her PR well. And she's a bit of a sore loser, but we kind of expect people. Sabalenka is number one in the world, by the way, in terms of rankings. So, of course, she's going to be a bit of a sore loser. I think Phil really highlighted that. But was this a case of her saying that, no, she didn't deserve to win? I don't think so. I think she just kind of spoke emotionally. And anyway, that was just I thought I would share that apology that she shared.
And part of the Sabalenka PR, let me see you vying for that tender.
No. Team Coco Gauff over here. I like how she carry herself, how she carry herself on the big stage.
Is Coco left or right-handed then?
I don't know. I don't. Okay, Phil. I once told you there are too many sports. There's only 2 sports I watch: football and Formula 1. I don't have enough room or space in my life to add any more sports. What I see are sound bites.
How did you find the race? Did you watch the race this weekend?
You didn't let me finish. I didn't watch the race this last weekend. It was the Canada one, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I didn't. I think the times were not great, and also this past weekend I was busy with some things
in the streets.
No. Family things with the wife, Phil. Just bonding as a family.
Oh, love it. All right.
Yeah, but congratulations to George Russell, the new chosen one. I didn't even see the full highlights. I just saw a couple of probably pirated clips on Twitter. So
yeah, it was a boring race until the last lap.
Well, I will do my best to watch. This weekend is another tough weekend, but let's see what happens. Yeah, so I don't know. Was there anything else? Some people spoke about some of the stuff we spoke about in the group. I don't know if anyone specifically mentioned anything. Oh yeah, the whole Air India situation. Remember, we were talking about like breaking news while we were
live
in the moment.
On air, huh? Which other podcast does that?
So
The news as it happens.
we mentioned that there were reports of a survivor, but it was unconfirmed at the time. And then eventually I saw, wait, there is something on a relatively, on something that you can trust. I think it was on Reuters, I think. So confirmed, there was some dude sitting in seat 11A who survived. And like, it's insane. But I think the story is that he can't quite remember what happened.
And that's what I find interesting.
So obviously, it's insane, it's crazy, but how? How did he survive? What happened?
Yeah, dude, because like the more I stopped thinking about it, the more I started like instituting physics. Like Newton's laws of motion. An object continues at the speed at which it's traveling unless a force is applied to it. So if a plane is taking off at 400 kilometers an hour, when you jump out that plane, you are traveling at 400 kilometers an hour.
So the story, let me tell you what he said. So I don't think he necessarily jumped out of the plane. It says here, the British man who was the sole survivor of Thursday's Air India plane crash said he managed to escape the wreckage through an opening in the fuselage. So it must have been after the crash. So I managed to unbuckle myself, used my leg to push through that opening and crawled out. Mr. Ramesh was in seat.
But how?
I don't know.
The plane burst into flames upon landing, remember?
Yes, I know, but
okay. I'm trying not to be problematic, but my conspiracy brain mind is going into overdrive with this one.
Look, shout out to you for surviving. The big story this week was it was the funeral of some of the people that had died, obviously, and there was a video going around of him carrying the coffin of his brother who he was on the flight with. So it became a huge story. But how did he? I don't know how he survived. How did he survive? There's literally a video going around of him immediately after the crash. In the background, you can see the plane on fire, and he's walking away from the wreckage.
Like Jason Statham, bruh. So
I don't know, man. I don't know, but yeah, interesting. Look, tragic situation, but obviously the story of someone surviving is insane. And now seat 11A is apparently booked on every flight.
Of course. And that's why my conspiracy brain is flying. Because, if there's one way to rack up extra money on flights, it's overcharged for that emergency house seat.
No, come on, Phil. You think how far-fetched is it that the conspiracy is the airlines, Air India decided to make a thing happen so that seat 11A is booked? No ways. Maybe what might have happened is some very smart PR person saw what happened and decided to make sure that every news story mentions seat 11A. Fine, I can believe that conspiracy. But in terms of how he survived, I don't know. This to me, was my man in like a Iron Man suit? What's going on? I don't know.
We have questions. We all have questions.
Anyway, so those are some of the things we talked about last week. This week in our official talking points, Phil, under main talking points, I have written something.
So detailed. So, when you think about it, something could be something, or it could be nothing.
Okay, before we talk about any news, there's this story that I came across on my timeline.
I was talking about something or nothing.
This is something. I was very excited to discuss this on the podcast because I rolled it around in my mind a little bit, and I was like, wait, the more I think about this, the more I think that there's multiple views, and I want to hear your views on it. So the story is there was a BBC news or BBC crew, documentary crew, whatever it is, that were in, I think it was Antarctica, and they were filming a colony of penguins. And what happened was there was this wildlife crew. They were filming these penguins, and they came across a flock.
A gang. It's a gang.
Gang of penguins. They came across this gang of penguins, and the thing is that they got trapped on this ice shelf or whatever that was breaking off, and they couldn't come out, and it was clear that they were going to die where they were. So obviously the news crew the BBC, especially the BBC News crew, have something that they call a no intervention rule. The idea is, as documentary filmmakers, we are here just to film what's happening. We are not here to try and intervene in any way. We're going to let nature take its course. We're just here filming it and documenting it. But they felt that, this is heartbreaking because there's like baby penguins, penguinlets, penguin.
Pingus, then they're called pingus.
They were baby penguins. My wife makes fun of how I say the word penguin. Penguins. They were baby penguins that were also there. And so what they decided to do is they decided to dig steps into the ice to let the penguins climb out of the space that they were trapped in. And then they stepped away, and then the penguins were able to come out of that space that they were trapped in. So this sparked a huge debate on Twitter because people were like, you violated the no intervention rule. Others felt, listen, you were there. You are also part of nature. If you decide that you want to help a penguin, that's also nature. So you helping isn't violating any rules. You are also a living being that happened to do something there. What are your thoughts on this very important debate on no intervention, Phil?
I'd rather like this is starting off bad. This is starting off really bad for the podcast.
So I'm going to remind you of a conversation we had, Phil, about the yes and technique. You see, when you raise some of your issues that are frankly not very interesting, if I were to respond to them by saying, wow, Phil, that's very boring, our poor listeners would have a terrible listening experience of us trying to judge each other's topics to see what's interesting and what's not. I grew up watching oh my goodness, what was that show? Toyota World of Wildlife. Is that what it was called? Whatever that wildlife show that came out on ZBC. My dad
World of Wildlife special.
Yeah, usual show. I think Gillette was the sport. Gillette was sport. Gillette was sport. Toyota was World of Wildlife. My dad had a collection of Londolozi, all these animal documentaries. National Geographic is the only thing that motivated my dad to pay for DSTV in our household. So I am very plugged in to not in my adulthood, unfortunately, but especially in my youthies. I watched a lot of wildlife. This is a fascinating question to me. Because I always thought about the crews who are present, who are watching killing and death and problems and destruction and an injured animal that can't save itself. And it was always the no intervention rule. But here's a case where there was they didn't even touch the animals. All they did is they made some changes to the ice to dig crude steps to allow these penguins to be able to jump out. That's fascinating to me because is that a violation of the rule? Why is the rule there in the first place? Should this be happening? But no, I come on my own podcast here and I get berated for my interests. What should we talk about instead? Should we talk about hip hop?
Yes, let's
talk about Boss Man D-Lo. I'm sure that's very interesting.
Yeah. Have you managed to catch up with his music since our last episode?
No. Answer the question. Rondez Venus with the question. Yeah.
On a serious note, I understand the no intervention rule. I think in most cases it makes sense, especially if it's like an animal that's about to be eaten by an apex predator, for example, because you might have saved this animal's life, but then you've also denied another animal a meal. In this instance, I can understand why the rule was shook, because at the end of the day, you just saved lives, right? So I think the major thing that would also just help me decide, like, to be honest, I'm not too mad at it. It's not like, oh my God, you've toyed with nature. We already were toying with nature when you had humans with incredible pieces of technology who had to fly, drive, and ski board in, or use a snowmobile to get to wherever they are. So already nature's been disturbed in that respect. So it is what it is. As long as it doesn't really disturb life. Also because the ice caps are melting because of us. So technically, we already were intervening, but further down the line.
I think that's a valid point that I didn't think about. You're right. We had already intervened by messing up the climate. I think the reason this is fast, obviously it's not a life-changing or important thing, and whatever opinion I might have isn't really super important. But I love these kind of mental puzzles because the reason it went viral is because, I mean, obviously it was a viral moment already, but then someone posted, "There's nothing natural about letting helpless animals die for no reason. You are part of nature. If you want to save them, then nature wants them saved." People were like, "Oh snap! You are part of nature. If you want to save them, then nature wants them saved." What? Bars. So I thought about it and I was like, yeah, we are part of nature. Why are we excluding ourselves from nature? We are the apex predator. We can decide what animals live or die. We are nature. So if you're going to choose, like you said, if it's a matter of picking sides between animals or predator versus prey, sure, don't intervene. But in this situation, why not? Why wouldn't? Especially, you know what these wildlife crews do? They stick with these animals for like weeks or even months. They grow affection. They like start to know them by name. They grow affection for them. Like, look at that one. That's kind of the bossy one. That one is like, the super friendly one that keeps they learn some of their personalities, and then now you're gonna watch them die like unnecessarily. Nah. My opinion is, please go ahead. Intervene. Save those baby penguins, son. Yee, thug life. Anyway, I was very fascinated by that this week. Okay.
I pressed the button and my logo recording is frozen again. I don't know. I'm not going to touch it. It might work, it might not. So just a heads up.
Yeah. Okay, we've got some kind of backup anyway. All right.
Also, just as a heads up, guys, don't install the beta. As fun as it may seem, don't install the beta. But
I feel like that's a given. Like the only reason you would do that is if you're a developer or if you're testing, not for use.
Dad, I don't like my productivity has 5x on an iPad since I installed it. It's incredible. These new updates are amazing.
Yeah, we can see that from the fact that you're struggling to record. Okay, so what are we going to talk about? Let's talk about Chillmaster. What's the story with Chillmaster? I know he was in a horrific accident. He was charged with manslaughter, I believe. And then his fans, I know this is as historical, his fans like appealed and stuff like that. And it was reviewed. I can't remember what happened next. Culpable homicide is the correct
it was tried for culpable homicide, but he was then sentenced to community service following his conviction for the culpable homicide and was fined $200 for driving without a license. I don't want to sound cruel. That seems like he got away easy. You know what I mean?
I mean, obviously it's very difficult to know all the details because driving without a license is obviously something that's wrong. But was he entirely at fault for the accident?
I believe so, yes. I believe, let's make sure we get our facts straight. Let me bring up.
From my understanding, okay, so to give you the background, he had an accident where he ran over and killed a pedestrian. His main charge was driving without a driver's license, for which he was given a fine of $200. Then obviously culpable homicide for someone dying. In terms of the exact details of who was at fault, exactly what happened, was he on substances? Was he driving normally? Was he driving a little bit recklessly? All of that is other conversations. But apparently, however, the family of the deceased came out in support of Chillmaster.
Why do you think that might be done?
I don't know why it might be, but
I think it's safe to assume money was exchanged.
Even if that was the case, like, allegedly, the family of the deceased did ask him to pay something, traditional or cultural, which involved, cows or something like that, which he did. But if the family is like, hey, we don't want to press charges, we don't blame him, we're sorry. I mean, or rather, we accept the apology. And then he's like out there like, I'm really sorry for driving without a license. I should have looked out for him, but this is what happened. And then they investigated and they find, obviously we don't know all the exact details, but judging from the way it came out to the end, how it was, because apparently he was given 2 years, and then was commuted to a 12-month sentence. And then I think his fans started appealing.
It was 2 years. One was suspended on condition he doesn't do it again, and then another was commuted so that he does community service at the primary school.
Mm-hmm. So okay, so this is the background of the situation. Is there anything that happened this week?
You were remember as part of the Best Newcomer Award at the Namas, the prize was performing in Germany at the Moto Festival.
Yes, yeah.
As a result of this, Chillmaster will no longer be going to Germany, and in his stead will be Nisha T. Sorry.
Was Nisha T's like second in the runnings of Best Newcomer?
You're asking questions I can't answer. If only we knew someone at Nash we could ask these things.
I mean, I wouldn't like that. Doesn't shock me or surprise me. I guess that's probably in the rankings. It's probably the case. The statement that came out was, unfortunately, Chillmaster, the NAMA 23rd edition Outstanding Breakthrough Musician category winner, will be unable to travel due to unforeseen circumstances. After full consultations with Chillmaster and his management and in alignment with the spirit of the partnership, Nisha Tees, the second place honoree, there we go, has been selected to take up the opportunity. Oof. I remember I was like, Chillmaster's up next. He's on a tier. This is...
Yeah.
Phil, without mentioning any names, you and I recall there's a certain artist.
I don't even want to discuss that.
There was an interview that was booked. It was ready to come out with a prominent artist. And then immediately afterwards, before the interview came out, a similar situation happened. Yeah. Hey. Anyway, let's move on from that. On to lighter reading. Tyler Perry.
I shouldn't laugh because it's a potentially serious one. But so
we just mentioned his name last week, Phil. We just mentioned his okay. So in case you are wondering what happened. Billionaire Tyler Perry has been the subject of a sexual harassment lawsuit that was hit in his direction this week for $260 million.
Small.
This lawsuit was filed by actor Derek Dixon, who worked in Tyler Perry's BET series The Oval. He appeared in 85 episodes. This filing was filled.
85 episodes.
This happened last week, the day after the day we released our podcast. So the story is that, according to Derek Dixon, Tyler Perry engaged in a series or pattern of sexual harassment and multiple instances of assault. It was allegedly some kind of quid pro quo dynamic where he was promised career advancement in exchange for these sexual favors. Apparently this happened after he was cast in this show, The Oval. And he then showcased some of these messages that he was receiving, which Tyler Perry's a weird dude. He's a funny dude.
But none of those messages support that accusation.
Wait, let me finish the story. I was about to get into it. Obviously, Tyler Perry's team have denied these allegations, and they say that this is all a scam, it's a shakedown, etc., etc. And of course, those are the details we currently have to this point. There were some screenshots of some of these messages. In these messages, Tyler Perry speaks funny, but it sounds like it doesn't
Tyler Perry
sound.
Speaks the way I would have thought Tyler Perry spoke. When you watch his movies and you see him
100%.
speak publicly, I was like, you know what? This actually, Tyler Perry is exactly how I imagined it.
So obviously, I don't want to say anything definitively because you know what will happen, Phil. The day we release this podcast, new text messages will come out and they will reveal what kind of monster he is or something like that. But based on the evidence we have to date and the suit that has been filed and the messages that have come out, This feels like a very weak case, bro.
No, Tyler Perry is a bit. So here's it's gonna some of the messages that they exchanged. Let me try to say it in this voice.
What's it gonna take for you to have guiltless sex?
No, wait, let me start again. I'm sorry.
Hello? What's it gonna take for you to have guiltless sex? Have you found that yet in therapy?
Perry alleged, wrote in one message, Dixon suggested that he had religious guilt, which Perry appeared to dismiss. In another exchange, Perry alleged that he was drinking and annoyed that Dixon was apparently avoiding him. Dixon did his best to tiptoe around Mr. Perry's sexual aggression while keeping on Mr. Perry's good side, the lawsuits claimed. Mr. Perry made it clear to Dixon that if Dixon ignored Perry or failed to engage with sexual innuendos, Dixon's character would die in the next season. Indeed, Dixon's character Dale was shot 4 times in the chest at the end of the first season on the Oval. So my man went through all this for 1 season, huh?
No, but I believe he came back for future seasons. Actually, I never watched the show, so I don't know.
So the funniest one was the photo of him in the Bahamas. Did you see that photo?
Yeah, I saw he posted the photo.
Nice picture. Tyler Perry. But let me not lie. Tyler Perry is an annoying bad. Like someone who thinks they're a bad and using their power to just boost their ego. Because if you don't grovel at his feet, you're screwed. Also, how is this appropriate? Like, why are you texting your subordinate a picture of you? Granted, they're not wild pictures. It's just Tyler Perry's just weird. He's a strange man. You know what I mean?
He's 100% weird. And okay, I want to imagine in a typical workplace environment, where HR is involved and there's very clear do's and don'ts, etc., etc. I think it's very easy to draw in place certain lines. I think that people like Tyler Perry and what we've heard about people like Harvey Weinstein, etc., etc. Hear me out. To differing degrees. Ranging from, okay, that's kind of inappropriate, to, that's 100% illegal and wrong, I think are able to take advantage of the creative or film industries where, number one, it's a bunch of attractive people. It's a bunch of people who are hungry for and will do anything for fame. And, there's work environment could include shirtless, even fully naked, etc., etc. I feel like that kind of thing can easily be taken advantage of in that sort of environment to differing degrees, ranging, as I've said. And I think that's where you'll find the weird people. You'll find the weird people in some of these industries because the environment leans towards it. I'm not surprised to hear this about Tyler Perry. I don't know if all the allegations are true, but him being weird doesn't surprise me in any way. And I think it's a lot more common than we think on Hollywood sets. It's what I would like to say.
So I would also just like to say, I can't believe I'm saying this, but even with the Weinstein case, a lot of those Weinstein cases are actually going back to trial because of insufficient evidence. And I think we discussed it on the podcast before. Some of those relationships, even according to commentators, granted, I think Weinstein was a creep. But I do also, it's a tough line, right? When you're a creep, you're unattractive. The reason why you're getting this interest from women is because of your money and your power. The line between consensual and non-consensual, if you're not familiar with it, it's a difficult thing to crack. But in a lot of these instances, Harvey Weinstein has a very noticeable disformity on his genitals. And a few of his accusers couldn't even describe what the deformity was.
Okay, so I get what you're saying, but I want to reframe it a little bit. hey, I will give you this work opportunity in exchange for sex is not an unclear line between consensual and what? Consensual and non-consensual. I think that at very, very best, you're incredibly creepy and inappropriate. But more likely, yeah, bro, this is 100% moving into illegal territory. Because I think all these Weinstein things that are being, under new scrutiny, retrial, whatever, it's mostly because of technicalities. It's mostly because of, lawyerism. It's mostly because of, like we said, insufficient evidence. It's not about whether he did it or he didn't do it. Secondly, if the prevailing status quo is for you to go past this stage in life, you have to do this thing that you don't want to do, that's clearly non-consensual because you don't want to do it. That having been said, I know some people who are attracted to power. You get what I'm saying?
Like attracted to people with power or attracted to having power?
Attracted to people with power. Mm-hmm. I'm not physically attracted to you, but the very fact that you have power over me or my career is attractive to me. I've had a conversation with one particular young lady who I will not mention on here, who described someone that she found attractive, which everyone was like, yo, what's wrong with you? And then she's trying to explain, I don't know how to explain it. It's this power that he has. And I was like, yo. So I don't know. That's a weird dynamic to try and figure out. I don't know. Life is so complex. What we must all do is be celibate until marriage and have sexual relations only with your marriage mate. That's the way to avoid all of this nonsense.
When did you become my mother? I don't understand. When did this transformation happen?
Okay. So I don't know, Phil, if you've been on the timeline this week.
Yeah, I've been offline. I haven't been doing too well. So yeah, what's up?
All right, let me entertain you with possibly one of the dumbest stories that I've seen recently on Twitter, which is saying something. But so there was a lady who frequently, garners a lot of attention on her Twitter just by speaking and saying things and stuff like that. She posted about a photographer that she knows that charges $200 for a photo shoot. You're allowed 2 outfit changes and you receive 10 edited images. And she's like, that's crazy. Now, there was a photographer who went on the timeline who then said, I know you're talking about me. First of all, if you can't afford my services, go to someone cheaper.
Do we know these people?
I mean, only by you might know them by reputation, but I don't know them personally.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so then she sees this tweet and responds by saying, brother, I don't even know you. I don't know what makes you think I was talking about you. And then he makes some point about, you come into the DMs and you ask for prices and then you go and complain if you can't afford it. And she starts posting, I've never interacted with you. And then, in fact, I think you're blocked. I don't know. It's a whole back and forth. That's not important. They have this whole back and forth and stuff. And it leads to a huge conversation on the timeline about services that are expensive versus what you can afford. The usual conversation about target markets. Anyway, the reason I think this is quite interesting is because in creative fields, it's often very difficult to determine how much to charge for things. I know it's a problem that I've sometimes faced in any freelance situations that I may have been or consultation situations I may have been. It's very difficult to charge for your creative ability. I can imagine for photographers, writers, singers, performers, all that kind of thing, it's something that takes up a lot of their thinking. How much should I charge? If someone hits me up and says, we want you to do a live performance and I'm a singer, should I charge $5,000 because I know Ningi's charging that? Or am I not at that level? Or do I think I'm better than him? But it's very complex to have that kind of conversation. So I was very interested in seeing the conversation that was happening in the timeline about the idea of what's fair and what's unfair, charging versus not charging. And I wanted to say, first of all, I don't think it's wrong to complain about something you think is expensive. Some people use analogies to say things like, listen, you can't walk into a Ferrari dealership and say, wow, that car is expensive. Yes, you absolutely can do that. You can walk into a Ferrari dealership and say, damn, that car's expensive. And you can complain about it. You probably should know that it would be expensive, but in case you didn't, or in case you just want to complain, I mean, that's not a big deal. People complain about things that they perceive to be expensive, but there is someone who will pay that amount for that. I would find it so weird if Ferrari started hitting up people and saying, just go somewhere you can afford. Why did you even come here to see this car and you thought it was expensive? Like, bro, some people will complain about things that are perceived to be expensive. So this is a little bit more directed towards the sellers of some kind of creative service, whether it's photography, videography, music, whatever it is that you do that's creative art, etc. And you sometimes question whether you should charge a certain amount. If someone finds your charge expensive, you are merely doing yourself harm and disservice by attacking them for their sentiment. And I would like to urge and encourage purveyors of creative endeavors to worry about your market and not worry about other people, because it paints you bad and potentially could lose you clients or make people start asking questions they shouldn't be asking. Just charge the person who's supposed to pay that $200 for 10 pictures that amount. If they are happy with your work and they're happy paying you the $200, both parties are happy. You don't have to worry about the other person outside the circle who thinks $200 is expensive. They have every right to complain. They'll complain. It is what it is. Yes, they should go to what they can afford, but everyone complains about what they can't afford. It is what it is. I wanted to address that to any creatives. I know many of them listen to this podcast. You may feel the urge, again, because it comes from a place of, I'm not sure how much to charge. And it's very much tied into your self-worth and your self-image because you're charging for your creative abilities. So it may feel like a personal attack. But again, I reiterate, do not feel the need to have public fights about whether what you charge is enough or not. And please don't call people poor. A far better approach is to encourage an aspirational mindset that I know you may think this is expensive, but it's expensive because it's good quality. There's people who really are happy to pay this. One day, maybe you'll be able to come through. I mean, don't say that, but I mean, that's the attitude that you're trying to portray. That's what you're trying to put across. Hey, I'm sorry you feel that way. Or nothing. Actually say nothing. Focus on your target market. Move. Say your quote with your chest. If you find you're not getting any bookings, maybe you need to reduce. Conversely, maybe you need to increase, because sometimes it's about perception. But anyway, I found this a very fascinating discussion on the timeline. And I really thought, hey, don't be trapped. Don't be caught in this trap of feeling like you need to fight with people, because you're not going to convince that person's not going to be like, you know what? You're so right. Actually, you're not expensive. You're not. Just leave it. What you might do is someone who would have been your customer might then be like, you know what? Actually, come to think of it. So don't do that. Focus on your target market. Give them the services you want to give them. Work on improving. If you're charging a premium, make sure you're delivering a premium product. It is what it is. Some things are more expensive than others. Don't fight. That's what I wanted to address. But I feel like you're about to say something contrarian.
I think we've kind of had this discussion ad nauseum, and obviously, as someone with my own company, it's a discussion I have myself. I just don't, as you said, I don't understand attacking people who might not understand or value your service. Sometimes it's like attacking won't convince them either way. If you have a civil conversation with them and you explain to them, listen, this is what I charge, this is why I came to this figure, they might be more inclined to listen, they might be more inclined to understand. But if you're just gonna attack them with I'm not your target market. Like, what have you achieved? I don't get it. So I feel like it's not defeatist. It's also weird that you think someone is subtweeting you and they're not. That's just strange. But anyway,
It is strange because
slow news week, I guess. But let's move on to more. Do you want to go local or do you want to go international, Dan?
What do you want to talk about?
No, I've got a whole smorgasbord.
It's okay. Let's hear what they are. And today is the episode. You'll hear my true feelings about the things you want to talk about, Phil. Let's go.
Okay, so choose local or international.
Let's start with local.
Local. All right, Dan, let's talk about the spate of armed robberies that have been plaguing the city of Harare and the nation as a whole. I mean, it's been an ongoing thing in the past year, but in the past month alone, there have been 3 large robberies. There was one for 200,000, then one for 180, and there's just a few days ago, $500,000 was stolen in broad daylight in the middle of the CBD from an Indian businessman along Cameroon Street. Dan, what is happening? Do we now live in a lawless nation?
Fun fact, that Indian businessman you're referring to is the former Zimbabwe Warriors team manager. His name's Rafiq Adam.
That's not going to raise any questions with FIFA.
Well, I mean, he's not currently now. He's just a businessman who happens to have $500,000 cash on his premises.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, it wasn't cash. It was cash plus goods worth that totaled 500,000. But still, that's.
Was he selling Rolexes in there? What the hell?
I don't know. My understanding is that it was like electronics and stuff.
Once again, was he selling Rolexes? Dude, what electronics would get up to $500,000? Let's be serious.
Phil, you have 10 MacBook Pros in your shop. You have 10 iPhone 16 Pro Maxes. You have 10. Like, you'll be surprised how quickly it adds up.
A MacBook Pro on Cameroon Street. Dad. Let's be serious here, bro.
Cameroon Street could have been the...
Dude, that's where you go to buy CV joints and headlights.
That could have been the base, but they were maybe they're supplying, businesses, governments even,
Mm-hmm. Dan is clearly on the payroll. That's all I'm saying.
No, I also know that there was there's also been a couple of other smaller robberies in the sense that they wouldn't make it to the news. I know of one that happened to a business that we work with, advertising agency, to the tune of, I think it was $14,000. Broad daylight during the work day. I mean, I didn't get all the details, but they knew that someone in the office had $14,000 cash on them. So yeah, it's quite worrying. I feel a little bit calm because they know where I got that much cash in my house. So, I mean, it'll suck to lose some of the things I have here, but I need to replace this laptop. So, maybe
just make sure it's insured, Dan. Just make sure it's insured. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
maybe that's what I need to push me to finally replace it. Oh no! Don't take it! No!
Oh gosh, darn it!
No, don't take it. That's my favorite laptop. No, cash. You and me both, sir. Yeah. Okay. I mean.
So, what do you think's behind it? Okay, we kind of know what's behind it, but isn't this like what is happening in our nation?
Obviously there's multiple factors that have coalesced and gurgled together in a large witch's cauldron to make this terrible brew. However, I think there are 2 particular factors that I would like to point out. First of all, this nation has largely been unbanked for a long time now. Under any normal circumstances, any business would bank their cash as soon as they get it, maybe daily, maybe twice a day, 3 times a day, whatever the case is. But the majority of cash businesses are disincentivized from cashing, or rather banking their cash. So robbers are aware that cash is freely available on location. Second of all, because, in fact, that was 3 factors. Second of all, obviously, poverty, desperation leads people to do things that they might not have done before. leads people to substance abuse, which makes them lose some of their inhibitions, et cetera, et cetera. So poverty and desperation. But the third thing is, we have been largely peaceful when it comes to this kind of thing for so long that most people are not very ready for it. You could have in South Africa, any business that has cash on the premises, you will find armed guards, you will find fortified businesses. That's because they are somewhat used to violent robberies and they expect it and they prepare for it. Doesn't always stop people, but it's a deterrent, and et cetera, et cetera. Here, you can expect that a place that has a very flimsy lock, the doors are made of glass, and inside someone is keeping $100,000 cash. The security guard is someone who was hired, who's, they also have a night shift, so they're literally dozing off during the day, even if you were to, you know what I mean? No one is really prepared or ready for this kind of thing. So there's going to be people that take advantage of it. And I think at some point, there will be a cultural shift, which I think is very sad because it will get to a stage where now we have armed guards and there will still be desperate people. So it'll lead to shootouts, and then the police are going to have to be equipped with more deadly weapons. And it's an unfortunate...
Bosh, we're now in a...
GTA 6 is being filmed directly in Zimbabwe.
Mm.
So yeah, it is unfortunate. I'm very sad to see the escalation. It's always like, Cape Town is so beautiful, but you have to be careful of the crime. Now it's going to be, Harare is so...
Harare is so ugly, and there's crime too.
Like, at least we had, Harare has its problems, water power, but at least it's safe, Unfortunately, we seem to be losing even that.
Yeah,
so that is an unfortunate situation.
Yeah, it is sad. It is sad.
Okay.
All right. Local, international then.
Let's go international.
What do you think of Sabrina Carpenter's new album cover, Dan? Has she gone too far?
Wow. I can't even describe to you how little I care about this story. I know nothing about Sabrina Carpenter. I mean, I think she's cute, but strangely enough, I don't find her attractive. But she's definitely attractive, if that makes sense.
She's half your age, so I'm hoping you don't find her attractive.
She's 26 years old, Phil.
Yeah, she's half your age.
No, she's a grown woman. Okay, all right. Let's take a moment here. Okay. Woke mob. There's nothing wrong with people finding a 26-year-old attractive. Can y'all grow up, please? If you're a 50-year-old and you're marrying a 26-year-old, that may be a problem. But finding her attractive, of course, get out of here. Anyway, my point is...
Check out defensive dad got over his 27 snow buddy.
I look at Sabrina. I can recognize her as an attractive person. Like, she's got a pretty face, I guess. But I don't think she's attractive. I don't know how to describe it. It is what it is. But yeah, she is... Yeah, she's weird. So people are in this whole thing about album covers. I don't know nothing about it. Couldn't, like, whatever. I'm sure she's making some super deep point about male gaze or something. I don't know. Not gaze as in homosexuals. I mean as in the look, male gaze. So I'm sure there's some point she's trying to make. But wow.
Okay. Have you listened to the Carter yet, Dan?
Nope. Oh yeah, I did listen to the Carter 3. I went for a run the other day, and I decided to listen to the Carter 6.
No, rewind. You did what?
I went for a run.
Since when do you run?
Phil, I'm a different man. I'm into fitness, into health.
Marrying a gym bunny really changed this man.
Into the gym, into all kinds of adventurous activities. But so I decided during the run, hey, let me take this opportunity to listen to some high energy music. The Carter 6, let's go. First introduction, okay. First song, I was like, okay, it's not the best song in the world, but it's promising, you know what I mean? Maybe things aren't as bad as people said. And it was a quick downhill from there.
Well, there's a new band from NO remix with Nicki.
Wow. Great.
If I say your name is Shannon, then that means you're not very sharp. Bars. Hello. No, the
Yeah.
downfall of Young Money, Cash Money is going to make an incredible documentary one day because they're not having a good time right now. They're not
feeding
having a good time.
the streets. This is. I was thinking about why. Why do I think? Because even when you hear him, you can still hear he's got the ability to rap. He's got the ability to make metaphors. He's still got it. But why is this just not hitting? Why is it?
I had a perfect summary. There's a few people that I follow. There's Read My Soul. There's Deleted. There's Justin Hunt. Even Professor Sky. And basically what they said was the problem with a rapper who became famous for not saying anything, like all he does is just hyperbole, similes, metaphors. But he's not really well known for it. So he's got some good stories. He's got like Maria. He's got I Feel Like Dying. He's got a few songs that are very introspective, very dope, but those are his bread and butter. But when you're famous for that and you don't grow with your audience outgrows. It's like Eminem. Like Eminem's subject matter from 20 years ago is very similar to the subject matter today. And the reason why we started tweeting out was, we're like, this is the same thing. Where's your 444 moment? Where is your Nas evolution where you're rapping about your marriage and raising your kids and trying to figure out life? Like, why are you still talking about weed and drugs and wet and so forth? You know what I mean? And that's, I think, the most disappointing thing I found with Wayne is he's just not growing. And people aren't calling him out on it. Well, until now.
I think they have been for a while. I was going to say this. I think also part of I think it's okay to have, in terms of subject matter, a light rapper. Wayne's always been that. He's been a good rapper, but his subject matter is light, and that's cool. It's fun. It's just a cool metaphor. It might get tired as a gimmick over time, but he'll still always have fans. I think the only way to reinvent yourself is to make the metaphors interesting, engaging, and relevant. Now, Lil Wayne has, admittedly, he's explained how he's just not in touch with anything. People would mention people's names to him and you'd be like, who's that? He's in his own bubble of his own world, wherever it is. He's got his weird Trump situation. And I somewhat understand he got a pardon, but still. So I get the feeling that Lil Wayne actually isn't in touch with what's happening. And when that's the case. So, obviously nothing is 100% or zero. But my point is, in his music and his metaphors, if the whole idea behind it was you're going to do these crazy metaphors that make you think like they would have to be relevant. They would have to be something that everyone will immediately pick up on and like, yo. And if his metaphors are kind of like dated or no one's really paying attention to that thing anymore, and it just won't hit the same because, like you said, it's not about subject matter. It's not about, at the very least, even if you kind of have dated metaphors or, maybe you're not really in touch with the streets or you don't really have that strong subject matter in your raps, at the very least, you should have fire beats, as we've known Lil Wayne to have over the years. These beats sucked. It felt like searching on YouTube for some free producer somewhere who's trying to get his big break. So, it sucks not in the way that it's a completely terrible beat. It sucks in the way like it's not bad, but you could have got a better one. So anyway.
I think you just reminded me of my points. When I was listening to this project and I was listening to the new Will Smith, I was like,
I want to ask you about that.
Like the
I want to ask you about that.
Really dropping the ball.
What's going on with your goat, Phil?
I think he's just got a terrible A&R. He's trying to reinvent himself. He's trying to do what he enjoys. I think he's trying to get back into music. But his A&R is terrible.
That song sucks, bruh. I like girls.
You don't like girls, then?
Okay, to be fair, the chorus could have been a catchy hook for some pop song sometime.
But I
But
think
someone
he's
made it.
figured it out because have you seen he's dropped he's letting people remix the song now, so he's giving everyone the files.
So someone made a very funny comment, also went ultra viral. He says, listen, you guys are hating on this Will Smith song. It's just a tempo issue. Speed it up to 1.25 or slow it down to 0.75 and then see. So someone was like, oh, snap. So here's what it sounds like slowed down.
I like pretty girls. Girls. I love pretty girls. Girls. I like pretty girls. Girls. I love pretty.
This is what it sounds like sped up.
I like pretty girls. I love pretty girls. I like pretty girls. I love pretty girls. You don't gotta wait in line tonight. You too fine for the line tonight. 5 + 5, you a dime tonight.
I mean, I can see the case for that. But it's point is, it still sucks. Listen, I forgot to record the Bluetooth channel. So producer, you're going to have to be doing what you have to do.
So wait, so if we didn't record the Bluetooth channel, is he gonna have to manually play the song?
He's going to get the song. He's going to have to adjust the tempo.
Wow.
No, this is what I'm going to do. In the production group, I'm going to post where I found these.
Yeah.
Anyway, point is the songs suck. Lil Wayne, it disappointed me, bruh. But I expected that. So
Yeah. I think it's a tricky time because we don't have many examples of rappers aging gracefully. And outside of Jay-Z, I can't think of any.
even okay. Jay-Z has done really well, but obviously not at the heights that he once was. So yeah,
What's
I
the
suppose
point? He's
I
a
would,
legacy.
I would,
That's the whole point.
yeah,
Like,
I would
you-
count it as aging gracefully.
Music is an old man's game. The whole point is like with Nas, aging gracefully to the point where you're not making songs for the general public. You're making songs for your core fan base. So you're not trying to go number one. You're just trying to have a decent return on investment and feed your core fan base and make good music that resonates with them. And in terms of Jay-Z, in terms of Nas, they've managed to figure it out. Everyone else, they're struggling, yo.
Yeah. Oh well, tricky stuff. All right, what else you got, Phil?
All right, Dan. Okay, I forgot we had banned conversations about it, but I did find the Father's Day concert and the protest and everything around it hilarious, especially considering with the Clip's new single and the interviews Push has been doing. Yeah, it's a great time in hip hop. Dan, do you want to discuss Kanye West potentially being part of Diddy's freak-offs and him watching his wife be pounded by another sex worker?
No.
How did Kanye got involved in this? I don't know. But,
I mean, why do you think he's been so vocal about Free Diddy?
Guys, what is happening over there? What is happening? Sodom and Gomorrah. I think that pretty much covers all my talking points, Dan. I've done my bit.
Okay. I've got a couple of other quick gaga things to mention. First of all, we haven't spoken about him in a while. Surprising. Holy 10 has announced an upcoming album set for release next week, the 23rd of June. So I only say this to say brace yourselves because we know the drill. We know how it happens. He's been quiet ever since
What shall he do this time?
The whole situation that happened back in March with, if you guys remember, Ola 7 and him being looked for, etc., etc. He's been quiet since then. Now he's announced that he's got an album coming out. So, side note, I feel like people and like there's so much to be said for scarcity. Don't just drop an album. Like build up anticipation, even over a year or 6 months. You know what I'm saying?
Then how can people pay rent?
But pay rent with singles. You're not going to pay rent with the album. Either way, you're not going to pay rent with singles, pay rent with shows, you know. Anyway, that's just a side note. So yeah, just a heads up. Brace yourselves. Who knows what's happening or what's going to be coming to your timeline soon. The only other thing that I was going to talk about was I want to talk a little bit about nerdy comic book stuff. So something that's been in trending in these discussions is the upcoming Superman movie. Have you seen any of the trailers, Phil? I know you don't watch trailers. Did you at least see a teaser or anything about it?
I am completely oblivious.
Okay. Long story short, we've often spoken about how the DCEU sucked. Well, the DCEU has been canned and something new is coming. It's the DCU. The DC Universe, at the helm of the DC Universe is James Gunn. So far, we've seen Creature Commandos as the first thing in the DC Universe. It's an animated show. It was very low stakes.
Technically, it wasn't
Peacemaker. So technically, Peacemaker wasn't in the DCU, but it was James Gunn's first DC project. I think they are then going to retroactively make it canon, but it wasn't officially part of this new project when it first came out. But season 2 apparently is going to be part of the DCU project. So, so it's like how Hulk technically wasn't part of the MCU, but when they continued building the movies, it was retroactively added. And that's why we had, Abomination in future movies, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
So James Gunn has taken the helm at DC to build the DC universe. The first big movie in the DC universe is going to be Superman. I think it's very apt, the biggest superhero in the DC pantheon, to relaunch the DC universe.
Wait, it's not, Black Adam? Because it's reframing. It's changing everything, Dan. Are you forgetting?
Unfortunately not.
There's a shift in the power.
Yeah, that the shift didn't happen, unfortunately. So, what was I saying? Oh, yes. So this is going to be part of the chapter 1. You know how Marvel had phases, phase 1, phase 2? DC has chapters. So chapter 1 is titled Gods and Monsters. The first movie in the rebooted DC universe will be Superman. It's coming out next month, July, specifically July 11. I'm quite excited about it, but I'll get into the reasons why shortly. Then after that, apparently will be Supergirl. Then there's going to be a standalone Clayface movie, which is wild to me because Clayface before Batman. But okay, all right, let's see how it goes. So sure, that's what we can expect. Now, James Gunn has obviously been teasing this huge thing about Superman coming. The trailers have come out, and DC has this weird cult-like subsection who are huge fans of Zack Snyder. It's a whole other discussion about filmmaking styles and whatever.
Do those people actually exist or are they bots?
They really...
That's a legit question because remember that whole news story that the whole campaign for the Zack Snyder cut was actually bots. It wasn't real people. And even after he released it, no one went to watch it in the cinemas.
Obviously, okay, first of all, that's not accurate. A lot of people went to watch it in the cinemas, but not as many as indicated by the amount of bot activity. Also, there were real people, but there was also a lot of bot activity, maybe even outnumbering the real people. So yes, it's bot activity, but there's definitely also a big group of people. They have their own Reddit page and their own little groups where they discuss how much they love Zack Snyder and his movies and how sad they are that this funky guy who wants to do jokes in a jokey environment is coming to take over DC when it really should be Zack Snyder, and we want a darker Gotham, a darker Batman, a darker Superman like we had in Man of Steel and all of that. And they're comparing this new Superman who's a much lighter character compared to Henry Cavill's Superman. So I would say it's a relatively smaller group. I think for most people, they watch this Superman trailer and they get excited about it. But there are some people who have some complaints. So for example, some people feel that Superman shouldn't be a jokey character, which is insane. Superman is jokey in a ton of comics. There's some comics that he's not also. In some comics, he's a super serious dude. He's a super dark dude. But in a ton of comics, he's also super jokey and cracks jokes and whatever. James Gunn is going for a slightly more jokey version of Superman. The trailer seems to show a lot of close-ups of Superman's face. Now, as you can imagine, in any space where there's a combination of VFX, close-ups, there's going to be some things that look a little bit weird. I watched the most fascinating video by Eric Voss about, this is something I would normally not care about, but he was speaking about the cameras used by James Gunn's team in making Superman. It was apparently the same cameras as used in the Flash movie and some other movies as well, and how it completely changes how a movie looks. But we are not used to that because we're used to a different perspective when it comes to these kind of movies. I highly recommend, in case you're a super film nerd and you want to hear about some of the use of this Leica, whatever camera that they're using. But the big debate is generally, is James Gunn giving an accurate portrayal of who Superman is? And I think this is such a huge high stakes debate in the comic book world because arguably, some people might say Batman, but the entire DC universe is anchored on Superman or Batman, both of the two. So it will also be a big deal whenever the official DCU Batman comes out. It might be Matt Reeves' Batman, which is what's his name? Vampire Boy?
Robert Pattinson.
Yeah, Robert Pattinson. But that seems unlikely. But it might be, who knows? But the entire cast of Superman is now available. Everyone knows Lex Luthor has come out and the type of person he'll be, the whole thing. There's also, by the way, a subplot which seems very Israel-Palestine related, but we'll see how it comes out in the movie. So I am very excited to see this film. What I wanted to ask you, since you haven't seen the trailers, so I was going to ask you what your feel is of Superman, but maybe I'll make it a bit more generic. Would you want to see a darker DC universe? You want to see a darker Superman, more serious? Or are you happy with the lighter take on the character? He's a bit more, inspirational, but jokey and fun, as opposed to serious and takes the business of the American way, etc.
I honestly want a good portrayal of Superman. For all the talk of all the superheroes, I was actually thinking about this while we were having a conversation recently. Even with my favorite version of my version of Superman being the Christopher Reeve Superman, I can't necessarily point to those movies and say those are good movies. I don't think there's ever been a really good film adaptation of Superman ever.
What do you think of Henry Cavill?
I think he was good, but the action scenes disappointed, and it was a little thin on story. The story was good. The action scenes were decent. I feel it still could have been better. I think Superman 1 is probably, the Henry Cavill version, is probably the best Superman movie ever made, but it was far from perfect. And I don't know how you feel, but when I think of that, I'm just like, now that I think about it, I'm like, I think Superman, considering his position and stature in the pantheon of superheroes and comic heroes, I can't point to a good Superman interpretation on a film or in TV. Smallville was,
Nah, come on, Phil. Smallville was elite. I loved Smallville.
No, elite, Dan. Dan, I would encourage you, right? And I think maybe I'm looking at it unfairly with my 2025 taste, when it was 2003, 2004?
2001.
Yeah, maybe that's the case. But when you go back and watch some of these shows, you're like, oh, wow.
Obviously, Phil, if you're going to watch Superman retelling for what it was basically a teen drama of a young Superman that was a serial. Remember, this was before the way, before Prison Break and 24 revolutionized how TV shows were going to be put across, right? Where they almost had movie budgets. For what it was, 10 seasons of Smallville, I would count it among elite. But obviously, compared to today, I understand. But when it came out at the time, that was lit. I loved Smallville. Somebody say.
So on the flip side, if that is our benchmark, we're saying the best interpretation of Superman was a teen daytime drama. That's
no.
Great bar.
I wouldn't call it the best represent. I agree with you. I think Man of Steel, again, we're young, so I mean, I can't sit and say Christopher Reeves and whatever. I mean, for me, Man of Steel was probably the best Superman movie. I enjoyed it. I think it was received well. Let me just quickly Google here and see how did people receive it. Oh wow, oh man, it was panned by critics.
Yeah.
Rotten Tomatoes has given the film approval rating of 57%, average rating of 6.2 out of 10. Metacritic gives it 55 out of 100. Cinema Score gave it an A-. The site's consensus reads, Man of Steel's exhilarating action and spectacle can't fully overcome its detours into generic blockbuster territory. What is Superman supposed to be? Anyway, I thought Man of Steel was cool. I enjoyed it. Maybe I need to rewatch it. Because that was a full 13 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. So back to your original point too. I just want a good version. Like, just give me a good Superman. How you choose to tell the story, whether it's humorous, whether it's dark, whatever it may be, just give me a good Superman.
Which one do you think would better? I really like Henry Cavill as Superman. I did think that the DCEU fell apart for many reasons. I always thought Superman was one of the strong things that they had.
I think by nature, Superman has to have a bit of lightness to it, because for us to suspend disbelief that his disguise is premised on him taking on and putting off glasses.
Yeah.
That has to for that to make narrative sense, there has to be a lightness to the way it's interpreted. It can't be a dark, grimy,
grimy,
sad
gritty
thing, because that's not. I don't see Superman as that unless it's the latter years. But yeah, I think especially if you're introducing the character, and depending how you want to go about it, like, are you going to do the full origin story? Are you just going to pick up mid story? Because I think in this version there's Pluto, right? I've heard that. I think you mentioned it.
Yes.
So, and we know Pluto,
aka Super Dog.
Yeah, Pluto only came later. So are we rushing through the years? Are we picking up? These are all things I'm interested to see. And all that to say is, I just want them to deliver a good story, man. Just make a good story first and foremost.
I imagine they'll have a couple of scenes to introduce him, but I think the general understanding is that it's not an origin story. He's already Superman, I think. So not only is he already Superman, but some key people know that he's Superman. Like Lois Lane knows that he's Superman. So in the trailer, she references the fact that she knows it. So anyway, the casting to me looks good. David Corenswet, who plays Superman, he looks a bit skinny, but maybe he's worked out. I don't know. We'll see in the movie.
I don't mind that, because also, dude, Henry Cavill, in many interviews, they were like, I was on the brink of dehydration on that movie, set, because having that amount of muscle isn't natural.
Superman is a natural, Phil. But okay. I liked Henry Cavill's take on the character. I do think that maybe a dark Superman isn't the best, but you could still make a good dark Superman story. But I am actually quite excited. From what I've seen so far, I genuinely think this is going to be a great movie. Again, this is not a thinker. This is not a something for the Oscars, that's going to make you say, this is a blockbuster, loud, colorful comic book movie. I hope it's got a good story. I hope the characters are believable. I hope you can buy into the villain as well as the protagonist. I look forward to it. I'm quite excited about it. It's coming out next month. So, I was going to ask if you have seen the trailer. Do you think a darker or lighter Superman? And I think you haven't watched it and you're going to avoid the trailers, but our listeners, especially in the group, in our Patreon group, but even if you're not in, you're very welcome to bring it onto the socials. If you've seen the trailers for the upcoming Superman, are you excited for it, or do you feel that it's a wrong take on Superman? It's for me, I'm excited. Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane also looks good to me. Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor. I think that's
who are these people you're mentioning? I'm like, who are these niggas?
David Corenswet and Rachel Brosnahan are little known. David Corenswet is almost unknown, but they're established actors, but they're relatively unknown. So I think this is great. Like this is what we should know you for. Nicholas Hoult, Nicholas Hoult. Nicholas Hoult is what was he in?
I literally just
He's-
said I don't know who this person is. And you're like, you know.
No,
this guy.
Phil, you know, there's no way you don't know Nicholas Hoult. He was let me
Is he
see.
Captain Holt's son?
No, man. Phil. Nicholas Hoult he's been in so many movies. He was in Nosferatu. I haven't watched that. He was in Renfield. He was in Mad Max Fury Road. He was in X-Men First Class. He played
Hey, was he that? Oh, was he the crazy dude in Mad Max?
yes. No, what do you mean the crazy dude?
The guy that like was super dedicated and loyal, and then like hopped on the hood of the car, and then throughout the movie starts realizing that he's been scammed.
Was that dude bald?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's him. I think it's him. I'm trying to remember what happened in Mad Max.
Okay.
So in the X-Men movies, he was Beast.
Mm.
In
I
all
thought that was
the
Kelsey Grammer.
no, do you remember the Days of Future Past, the young
Yeah,
X-Men?
I get. Now I'm being silly. I know you don't, but now I got an idea of who he is.
All right, yeah. So he's playing Lex Luthor. In my opinion, that's the role he was born to play. So, I look forward to that. Yeah. Anyway, I'm excited. Superman movie coming out next month. Ready for it. I was gonna have a brief conversation about Studio Ghibli, but I feel like we've had enough conversations about it because I watched The Boy and the Heron this past week, and I was like, man, this is brilliant. But it's like I had to sit and analyze it and watch essays and read more about it, and I was like, man, this dude is brilliant. Yeah, so I'm gonna go on a Studio Ghibli marathon and watch all the movies in order. Yeah, and I'm gonna become an insufferable Ghibli nerd.
Mm.
Yeah. Anyway, that's what I had on my side, Phil. I think considering the situation we're in, we are allowed to have oh no, look, we're already hitting an hour and a half. This is a solid episode. Never mind.
Mm. And playing out is the theme from Dan's favorite show, Smallville. Tune in on SABC2.
Save me. Another theme song you just could not skip. Top notch. Oh yeah, we didn't talk about Clips and Pusha T and him dissing Travis Scott. I mean, we referenced it slightly, but
I'm just looking for this album. Sounds incredible. Like the two singles I've heard. Ace Trumpets is my workout song. So be it. It's sounding insane. Pharrell is doing his best to disprove that he fell off since Chad left the group. Rumors, so it's just I'm excited, man. I haven't been this excited for an album in a long time.
Nice. Well, I also quite enjoy Clips. I will look forward to the music, particularly Pusha T. Ever since his dramatic takedown of Added On.
Like he was 20 years in the game when that song dropped.
No, I know that. I mean, I've been listening to the Clips, but I love a resurgence based on hate.
Also, I listened to the new Slick Rick album because someone in the Patreon group had recommended that. Obviously, I was going to listen to it, but I was like, let me get around to it. What a great album, man. There's another, granted, he's at a 22-year hiatus, so I don't think it counts, but Slick Rick still got it, bruh. Man, just give the man his visa again. Come on, man. Give the man his visa.
Shame. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take advantage of this opportunity to bring this podcast to a close. There's a ton of Zimbabwean music coming out. I think we'll have listening sessions with our Patreon subscribers. There's a new, like I mentioned, there's a new Holy 10 album. So if we're enjoying or dunking, there's a Shashel album launch happening this weekend, Phil.
As we speak, even.
No. Tonight is an exclusive listening session. Obviously, I did not attend because I prioritized our podcast. This may cause problems, but you, our listeners, are my priority. There's a couple of other people who are dropping. Who else was dropping? Oh, Takura's dropping. Yeah. Shauna Prince, aka Takura. I don't know if he's announced it anyway, but I managed to have a conversation with him this past week.
Is he dropping? I was going to say, is he dropping as Shauna Prince or as Takura?
I think everything from now is going to be as Shauna Prince.
Let me sort out my grants. We need to just sort out his grants, then we can fix his grants quick.
I think we can, and I would be willing to do that because, man, I'm such a fan of his music, bro. So,
All
all right.
right.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we out. Please, if you want to be a Patreon subscriber, twobroketwimbos.com/donate, you will find a helpful link for you to be able to access Patreon, or you can just, go to patreon.com/twobroketwimbos. We have multiple tiers on there. You can subscribe at our entry-level tier for just $5. Once you subscribe, we'll add you to the WhatsApp group if you so choose. It's not a spammy WhatsApp group unless something big is happening. There's also a sports group in case you're interested in discussing sports ball, particularly basketball and football. Feetball. But at least in the general group where we talk about like stuff like movies. Today there was great discussion about different movies, and they were talking about The Accountant 2 and whether it's worth a watch or not and that kind of stuff. I appreciate that group a lot. Shout out to you guys who share your thoughts in that group. There was general news that was in there. I don't know, Phil, if you saw, but some of these things are not for discussion on the podcast. These are better for. No, there was the whole story that was going on about stuff happening in South Africa with Zimbabweans.
I saw that one.
I don't want to publicly discuss things that may cause problems for our brethren. So I figured let me just leave it in.
Don't do crime. Simple and straightforward. Just don't do crime.
Yeah. So so if you want to be part of that group, great takes in there about this whole Tyler Perry situation as well and all of that. So twobroketumbos.com/donate. We would very happily welcome you. It helps to support the podcast. We try to give you a couple of perks like being part of that group and having access to some of the things that we get access to where we can. First choice. What is it? First dibs. First. Anyway. First, the ability to access certain things first. Also, some of the topics that you want us to talk about come through from that group. So if you would like to show your support for Two Broke Twimbos, all you got to do is go to twobroketumbos.com/donate, select Patreon, or you'll go direct via Patreon and become a member. It will only be $5 a month. You can increase your tier, of course. There's a Mbinga tier for just $100 per month. You're also very welcome to take that up. That's taking your support for the podcast to the next level. We'll greatly appreciate it. So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we will not be ending with any music because, as you know, we are under the corporate overlords who shall one day own our lives. So it is what it is. But we'll catch you in the next one. We out.